Salamuna. Today we will discuss one of the small component which is like grant writing of fundraising and development. So fundraising and development, like fundraising is the bigger component, and then this grant writing is a small component into that. So what we will be doing, we will be discussing grant writing step by step, and we will be looking after that what is going on in this process. So in grant writing, we will explain everything stepwise. And in the end of this recorded session, then we will have again like another live session with you guys for question and answer sessions. And the same will be communicated definitely to you guys through the program coordinator. Anyhow, so first step is about introduction to the grant writing. Whenever it comes to the grant writing, that we have to answer a few basic questions: that why are we writing the grant writing? So and what is grant writing, who does this grant writing, and how do they do that, and when and where. So there are these few basic questions, like these things, like whenever you are doing these things. So this first session, when you are thinking about this, like you should think with your own self that why do you want. So find your why, find your purpose, find your own reasoning, and for what do you need that, and what is those, what are those projects or activities or elements or event or your research. It can be action based research, it can be any project which you want to implement, or maybe for your business, for your startups, maybe it can be for any emergency relief or some any other purpose. And normally, like whenever this question comes, like who does this grant writing, so there is not any specific person to that, but in some organization, in some startups, in some projects, in some programs, people will definitely specify a grant writer. But everybody can be a grant writer, because we have seen, if you will see, like students are also applying for grants, faculty members are applying for grants, professionals are applying for grants, businessmen are applying for grants, entrepreneurs are doing that. And then from public and private partnership, like people do those grants also, those grants writing. And definitely from one government to the next government, and from one province to the next province, or one country to the next country. It depends, like what is the nature and how big the scale of the project can be, or what is the scope of those things. So whosoever is writing that, that person will definitely change. So there are small grants also, there are medium grants also, and there are some large grants also. It depends like how people are doing those things. So when it comes to how, so definitely they will see like what are the main elements, that let's suppose when they have specified their scope or their area, and they thought that they need to improve something, or they need to construct something new, or they need to bring innovation, or they may be in some other field. There are already, maybe you want to solve any problem, maybe you want to bring some solution to any specific situation, or maybe there is a need. Let's suppose like there are natural disasters most of the time when they are happening, so there are also some needs, and people do all those things. And there is a timeline to that, like when do people do those activities and where do that. Definitely it is based on the scope and all those dimensions, that for what duration you think that you need support, you need grant, and in what location do you need that. And when it comes to these activities, so in fundraising, as I mentioned, that that is the bigger component. So you will see like and we will also have one more session which will also explain that who are grantors, like where are the donors. We will also find those activities also, but in this presentation I will also explain just a little bit of that, but we can go ahead and explain those things in detail again. So this is just like a basic introduction whenever you are doing it. So first you need to know a little bit about the grant writing. If you have little bit basic, like after answering your all those questions, like why you are writing that, what is the need for that, and who and how and when and where, all those components, when you have explained those things, then we will go towards like kind of step two, and that is like understanding the basics of grant writing. Whenever you come on the second stage or the second step, like when we are explaining it, So you will be doing it like this, like grant giving organization always tend to seek those candidates which have like a clearly definable and relevant mission. So if they don't have definable and clearly or relevant mission, so don't try. You have to see your relevancy. You have to see that how clear and definable your mission is and how relevant that is to that specific announcement. So this is like the first indicator. So clarity and definable and relevant mission. Then the next one, like when you will see like understanding in basics of this, definitely those grant giving organization again or those donors, they are also like trying to seek those candidates, or they are trying to find those people who are like driven by a specific project goal or plan. If that is not so, you have to find like what are your specific project goal and plans, and also like maintain adequate financial and operational structures. Like you have to have like a proper setup or structure or system if you are a new person, or if you are going to do something entirely new. So you have to also see this thing, that what are those components that you are going to plan in your project, and you have to have a proper structure for your entire operations, and you have to tell them like a clearly uh, a clear picture of your financials, that how you will be maintaining that. But for those who have already done one or two components or one or two projects, or if that is organization, if you are applying through organization also, or through individual also, if you have previously done something, so you have to show your record, and that what you have done, what were your like they will definitely ask some basic questions about your financials and operational structures. And also those their donors are also looking for those people like who uses the modern financial most modern fundraising tools and methods, because still if you are using the old practice, you never know, like maybe in your area right now, like maybe people are not following, or they are not responding to the phone calls, or they are not responding to the text messages, or they may not be responding to the website campaigns, or maybe they will not be responding to any events, or maybe whenever you will arrange events, like you cannot generate funds through that. It depends, like what are the fundraising tools that you are using, because the fundraising tools are always very important. So you should always be trying your level best that you will be using the most recent updated fundraising tools. If you have like any old format which is of like 1950s, so don't think like it will work continuously the same, because things are changing. So you have to keep on updating your fundraising tools, whatever tools you are using. And also mostly donor also looking for those people like who have a good history of successful projects, and also different initiatives. And if you have your initiatives, they are also looking for those activities, and definitely one way or other way, like they will come to know about this, like if you possess those uh, successful project histories or all those things. And also like those candidates, like or those individuals or organizations uh, who retain a strong relationship with the community, uh, and with their people, with their activities, or if they are stakeholders. So they are also looking for those people, because it is always dependent on this, like whenever donor is trying to put some money somewhere, so they are always looking for this, like we need a person who has like a strong relationship with their own stakeholders, with their peers, and with their own community, because if this relationship is not there, then donor will always think that, oh, this project is not going to work with this beneficiary or with this organization. If I am going to give them money, maybe they will not be able to implement it. So there are always those questions. So always try to make sure uh, that you have a strong relationship. Like if you are trying to implement a project in your specific area, in community or district or town or village or union council, wherever you are doing it, so you should demonstrate that relationship, that how well connected you are in the community. You have to mention it through your initiatives. You have to mention it through your success stories, uh, that how many people you have trained or equipped with different tools, or with uh, it can be soft skill training, it can be any direct project implementation, it can be emergency relief, or it can be any other thing. But you have to show your connections. Like normally, if that is educational institute, sometimes like educational institutes are not trying their level best to connect with the non-profit organizations because they think everybody should work individually. It is not going to work like that. So there should be always like connection with the peers, with the community people, with those people who are living in your town, that how you are connected with them. So this is always very important. Like whenever you are trying to understand about the basics, so you have to explain those things. And then coming ahead to the step number three, that is identify the problem that needs funding. And also, like whenever you are doing this thing, so always agree on the problem. uh, and agree on the problem, like if you are working as an individual, or if you are working in a team, or if you are working inside your institute or organization or your startup. So whosoever is involved with you, check these problems. Like if there is a announcement call for proposal, if they have specified one thing like, okay, we are going to support these activities, so you have to agree on one specific problem. But whenever, and in order to be agree on that specific problem, what is the way to do that? You have to involve all stakeholders, like all those stakeholders who are going to work with you, either in implementation of that, either in the planning of that, either in the conception phase, or maybe like there are some financial, like your finance guy, your operational guy, your administration, maybe your donor. Like these all things very, it matters a lot. So you have to see, like you have to involve all the stakeholders, and whenever you will involve all your stakeholders, it means this thing that you are going to bring them on the same platform, that this is a specific problem. Like if they agree on that, so that's fine. If not, like you have to dig into that. And also you have to define the problem or the situation in front of them and explain that how these things are going to do those things. And then you have to describe the impact of that problem, like how that problem is going to impact overall whatever activity you are going to plan, and investigate possible causes of that problem. Like you have to further dig into that, and whatever the possible causes are, identify that of that specific problem. So it will kind of help you, like whenever you are trying to plan for a program or project or an activity or any initiative that you are going to go for the grants. So these are the important elements that you have to go with that. And next, we are going to move to the step four. So when you will come to step four, so always consider this thing, like considering your audience, like consider your audience. Like if you're not considering your audience and your purpose, your extension of expectations, like what people are expecting, expectations of that proposal. So always consider those things, like how you are going to do that. You will see like who are your audience. You have to be very specific about your audience. uh, you can never do like this. Like for example, if you are working in one area, let's suppose like just we'll take one example, like Pakistan is a country, and inside country that there is a province Balochistan. So if you think that you are going to alleviate the poverty in entire Pakistan, or you are going to alleviate the poverty in entire, let's suppose, India or Bangladesh, Iran, Afghanistan, anywhere. So that is like very broad, that is not very specific, but you have to go with the very specific thing. For example, if you are going to go with Pakistan, then you have to go with the specific country, with the specific province, with the specific region, with the district, based on whatever area that you are going to define, who is going to be your specific audience. You have to have like a clear answer to that. And what are the particular expectations of those for these grants. And normally, like whenever you will see grants, they have specific expectations. It is not going to be very general. They will not tell you that, okay, just take like $100,000 and just implement it in anything. It will never be like that. Like that will be very specific. Like they will have like some expectations. Like they will tell you like, we need these activities, or these are our objectives. Among those 20 objectives, it can be something related to that. So ideally, whatever you are going to do, so you have to have a standard to meet those expectations of these grants. then it means this thing that you are on the right track. And how do you establish your credibility? With that credibility, you have to have like that consideration also in your mind, that how you are going to do that, and what are those connections that which you have mentioned, like as we discussed in step 3 also, you are going to involve your stakeholders and all those, like that credibility definitely is going to be connected here also. And then same is you know, in the same this step 4, we will also see that how can you clearly and logically present your plan. So this is an element which will give you a go ahead at step number 4. Like there are many other steps also, like in total, like when we are going to explain these things, so you'll try to go with step 14. It will give you like a basic understanding, but in question and answer, like definitely we will be answering all those questions if you haven't. So anyhow, with the step 5, so what you will be doing, describe what you hope to achieve. And whenever you are doing that, so measuring the success and the output and outcome, it is not only about outcome. You have to mention your output also, and with your outcome also. So you have to have facts and figures. You have to have quantitative and qualitative data, and all those things, it need to be present in there. So measuring your success in the output and outcome way, and also identify the key outcomes, that what are the key outcomes of that, and set the realistic and achievable outcomes. Don't set any outcome like which is not realistic and which is not achievable, because if you are going to be super vague and super general, it will definitely affect your ability to get this grant, and mistakenly and accidentally, if you get this grant and if you are not going to implement anything, so it means this thing that in future it is going to affect your abilities, because setting realistic and achievable outcome, that is very important, and measure and record the result of your work. So you have to have that specific mechanism also with you, and focus on the end result. So if you're not going to focus on your end result, that is again going to be a problem. So always consider these things, like whenever you are on the step 5, that describing what you hope to achieve. So that is nice to go with the proper planning if you are going to do activities. Meanwhile, and here we will come and explain a little bit about step number 6, design your program, and how you can do that. uh, get an expert opinion, ask from people, engage everybody. It is not like you will be sitting on one desk and you think that you can do everything. That is impossible, because all these projects, they need like an ecosystem. Everything needs ecosystem. For that, like you need stakeholder. For that, you need audience. For that, you need beneficiaries. For that, you need your own team members, and definitely those people who have implemented already something. So all these activities can be good. We have to explain that what is going on, and we will be having all these things. So get always expert opinion, like what people think about that when you are designing the program, and also research what other have done. Do a lot of research about that, and see that when this need or problem was present, so how people designed their activities, what they have done, and all those things. And also get a buy-in from the stakeholders. And when it comes to buy-in, so it means this thing that acceptance, and also like willingness to actively support and participate in something, you have to get from your stakeholder, you should be having acceptance, and also willingness to bring little bit modification and changes wherever it is required. Don't think like your design is the perfect one, it will is going to work. No, like you have to have uh, opinions and ideas and sharing from everybody wherever it is possible, because then you can make your perfect uh, design of the program. And also clearly describe your solution. So if you are going to go with any solution, or if you are going to go with the provision of something, so you have to be very clearly, uh, you have to state it very clearly, that how you are going to uh, bring this solution to the table, and how these things are going to work. So these elements are very important whenever you are going to explain it. Meanwhile, like on the step number 7, like we will be also explaining a little bit about locating the funding sources. There are so many ways. Uh, Earlier, I'm not saying that there were no ways. Earlier, there were also used to be ways, but nowadays with the modern fundraising tools, things are really changing a lot. But we will discuss few of those things, like whenever you are trying to locate the funding sources, so always start with the organizations or people that you know. And for this, like uh, specific activity, like whenever you are talking about sources of funding, we will explain it in full detail with the different session, because we are going to have a separate session for the same. We will explain it further in detail, and then we will go and dig into every specific sources, and we will see that how those things work. So anyhow, here we have to, first of all, like whenever you are going to locate the funding sources, so first you have to start with your organizations, with, or like people that you know. If already known people, already known organizations, start with them. Use the internet to do the research, to do like research for the funders, that as much as research you can do, finding the right grant opportunities. And in order to find the right grant opportunities, there are different programs like federal grants programs. There are different endowments. There are like provincial, state-wise, or like municipal funded resources, and also there are corporate giving programs. There are private grants giving foundations. There are some federal grants. There are some public-private partnership grants, and there are some like corporation givings, as we mentioned this thing. So there are a lot of things. And also, whenever you are doing these things, like you have to ask question, like when you are reviewing the funding sources. So there are a few questions you have to have these questions, or ask your own self these questions. It will specify your boundary or scope for searching for the funding sources. And what are those questions? Like um, there can be some questions like, do you want to work with this organization or not? Like if you will receive grant from this organization or government or country or any other place, like do you really want to work with them? and and does it typically fund the organizations or projects like yours? Like whatever your idea is, does this donor do the same thing? They have the previous record or the previous experience of this? Like are they going to support the same kind of project that you are doing it? If not, move to the next one. Maybe that donor is not good for you. And do you qualify for a particular program? And if you are not going to be qualifying for the particular program, so it means again you can just keep on detecting those sources from you. And can you meet all the program grants requirement? And if you cannot meet the grant requirement, then again, like that grant is not for you, or that donor is not for you, that funding source is not for you. So you have to have like a few basic questions whenever you are trying to apply for a grant. Then the next is also like you have to have like established relationship with your grant program. Like if there is a program officer, if there is a anybody, any individual, uh, they mostly, whenever the grants are being announced, they will give you an email or contact number, or sometimes they will also mention the name, and they will tell you like if you have any questions, so please do ask. So try to create a relationship in terms of like you have to ask uh, if you are the appropriate organization or person, or that who is most suitable and going to be an appropriate person for the grant. So you have to have like that relationship, which is always important, because it will help you in many ways whenever you are going to address questions. And these days, like literally, like donors will even give you like a Zoom call, telephonic conversation, or through emails. They will answer your all questions, like what they are looking for. So it means this thing that everybody is trying to help you. Like if you are a right person, so you should just come and get whatever you need, and involve your funder in your project. Like you, whenever you are trying that, so you have to have like a strategy to involve, like how you are going to involve your donor, and You have to share your ideas, share your concepts with them. Maybe they will tell you like, yeah, we are looking for this or not. It will help you a lot. So this is like a little bit basic about step number 7, and now come to 8. So step 8 is like go through the grant. This is like throughout my own experience, like whenever we used to write proposals and up till now, like when we are writing, we do see like a lot of people like they suffer a lot in this stage because they don't go through the grants, and they will just like somebody will tell them that okay, there is a $5 million grant available, so just people will keep on writing and just they will send everything. That is not the appropriate way. Like you have to go through the grant, consider doing few things, understand the grant application, prepare a summary statement, determine if the proposal is the type of project that the grantor is actually funding. If your own thing is like not appropriate, you have to reconsider doing things. And it should also have like a few more things, like for example, like a brief explanation of yourself and your organization. Or maybe if they are just interested in your organization, just give explanation about that. Or if they're interested in you, or anybody who is going to implement the main project, or who is going to be the point of contact, or who is going to execute something. So in whatever explanation like they are doing that, so you should have like explanation about yourself or about the person who is going to implement or about the organization, and also like your project, that what you are going to achieve, like what you intend to achieve, what your project is going to achieve. Like this is the main thing. Like if you are not going to explain that what your project is going to achieve, they will definitely be, it will be ambiguous. Like go through the grant, and also your project and what people intend to achieve in this component when you are discussing. So sometimes like people are not explaining their project achievements, like what they are planning to achieve. In this, like people will suffer sometime. And also like sometimes you have to consider like and also you should do this thing, in fact, like the amount you need for this specific grant, and how much you need, and those activities when you are doing it, and how you are going to use it. So definitely it is very important to know that let's suppose if you need $5 million, but how you are going to use that $5 million, in what components, and how you are going to execute all these ideas and stuff like that. So it is good to know, and it is good to have more ideas and understanding. So do plan about your requirements and your achievements, or your implementation, and what you hope to achieve with all those activities. So this is like always important. Go through your grant in detail. And when it comes to like writing your proposal, so again, when you will start writing, now it is the stage like when you will start writing, and later on we will also organize and put them together in different sections. We will discuss it in step number 10. But in here, we will be planning that when you are going to write your proposal or your grant. So how you are going to do that? So you will be you have to have like follow a few basic instructions. Like for example, like study the criteria of the grant, write the first draft, clearly lay out the specific goals, and make it shine, and use a checklist to make sure that your application is complete. Consider hiring a professional writer also. Like if you think that you cannot do it, so please do consider hiring a professional writer, uh, because that person can give you good reviews, and edit everything very carefully wherever it is required. Review the proposal and its requirement super in detail. Uh, if you will be able to review the proposal and its requirement, trust me, like uh, after going through the grant, literally it will help you like more than 80% uh, that what need to be present, and the remaining 20% is just a little bit your additional things. So it is very important, like you have to review the entire proposal and their requirements and proofread everything, like whenever you will do it, and give your proposal to a cold reader. Whenever it is done, just give it to a cold reader and tell him to review that. And that cold reader will definitely be like give you uh, the guesses and assumptions and everything like very clearly and technical aspect. They will give you a great ideas like if so again I will repeat here like whenever you are done, please give your proposal to a cold reader. They will give you the best reviews that you were never expecting because these things are important. And do a reality check also, like whenever you are done with that, so do a reality check, like is it possible or not, and meet the deadlines. If you are not going to meet the deadline, this is again like going to be a problem for you. So there are elements, there are things which can be done and which can be changed anyhow. So this is little bit about how you are going to do it. So meanwhile, like when we are coming here to the step number 10, as we discussed, like we are going to little bit like define, mm, like in here, we are going to organize, finalize, uh, like the grant writing or the grant proposal here. So there are different steps, like which I've just put them all together here. But in a quick response, if I will explain it. So title page, like normally sometimes there is a title page or not. But these days, most of the time, like whenever when there is a layouts, if they have given you a format, so they will attach a layout for that. And cover letter. With cover letter also, like there are few things like we have to consider this, address your cover letter to an individual, make sure that they are the correct person, do investigate that who is the correct person, mention that, and limit your cover letter to one page with the 3 or 4 paragraph, not very super lengthy. Just try to be very specific in that. Include a statement of your support for the project from your board of director, if you have that, or if that is individual, so that will be a different aspects. And do include a cover letter, like whenever they ask you for like that, please do include the cover letter. And normally, most of the time, I'm not saying like most of the time, in federal grants, they don't ask for the cover letter. So if they don't ask for the cover letter, so please don't submit the cover letter in the federal grants. It depends like what is happening. So anyhow, when it comes to the next step, that is your executive summary. So in executive summary, we will see like you have to do what, like there are few basic elements which has to be present in your executive summary, like identify your organization, include your mission statement, emphasize the key points of your grants and proposal, clearly communicate the need of your program, state the cost of your project and the amount that you are requesting for this, like it has to be present in executive summary. And also mention this thing that uh, state the time period, because that is very good portion in the executive summary. In fact, like it is the required thing in the executive summary. And also state the results and what they are expecting to achieve in that project. So that is like going to be included in the executive summary. And coming to the next step, that is like statement of need and statement of problem. So whenever you are going to discuss that, so make sure like your statement of need is well written, and whosoever like the reader is like with that reader, like it has to be like a reader friendly. It has to be like good in a way so that people will have like a maximum understanding about that. And also use the quantitative data, statistical analysis, trend, and expert views that support your arguments. And also you have to go with the reference of like reputable research, provide a proper literature if you are going, if you have that specific data with you, and comparative data to support your arguments, like why you are doing that. So that is very important in this element. Whenever you are done with that, so explain your time frame in this section, and also why these sources of funding is like critical now, and why do you need it now. So this is like uh, going to justify your this section. And when you are done with that, so we will go to the next step, that is goal and objective. You can see here on the screen also. So in goal and objective, what you will be doing it, like use the quantifiable terms, identify who or what your objectives will serve. Make sure, and also you have to make sure that your objectives are measurable and realistic. And plus, your objective should consider with the statement of need, which we just discussed right now before this goal and objective. So this is going to be, and your entire proposal should be in connection to one another. It should support each activities. And the next component, when it comes to just like you have like method and strategies or program design, so you have to be very explicit. When you are explicit and explain why this method that you have selected are going to be the best to achieve your objectives, like that methodology, whatever you are doing, you have to give the justification. State the supplies, you have to provide the supplies of that and equipments and resources that you will be using for this project, including who will perform the specific task and how they will be doing it. And also, again, like in methodology, strategies, and program design, you have to include your timeline. You have to specify your strategies and explain it clearly in a clear word so that they can see, and also include who and what will benefit from your this service. So when you are done with this methodology, we will go to the monitoring, evaluation, and research. In here, I'm trying to be very quick because we will have questions and answer sessions for everything that we are discussing, or if any other question you have, so we will discuss that one. So with monitoring and evaluation and research, there are different titles. People are using it differently whenever it comes to call for proposal, request for proposal, call for grants, or many other things. Like when they do come, so they sometimes they write it as MER, sometimes they write it as MNE, sometimes they just like write research and development. It depends like what is there. Anyhow, so whatever there will be like a specific general understanding that which I wanted to share here. So in here, make sure that this section is consistent with your entire methodology, with your entire objective. Like whatever you explained it has to have like a connection. It should be having relevancy and all those things. State how you are like how the evaluation of like will measure that whether you are going to meet the objective or not. Like state how you will use the findings. Uh, Also like specify whether you will conduct any internal evaluation or hire an outside help or anybody, because sometimes you will have your own monitoring and evaluation staff, sometimes you will have your own research activities. And also try to plan about your monitoring and evaluation plan, performance monitoring plan, which is also known as like PMP, and logic model. You have to provide also like with your result framework, indicator reference sheet if you have, or like try to build it, and also like those indicators like through which like you are going to do activities. So you should have like your indicator tracking sheet. It will help you like with many ways anyhow. So explain that how data will be collected and they will be managed and how that will be analyzed. So those things, and explain about the reporting and communication. So when you are done with that, I hope this monitoring and evaluation activities can support your overall justification that you have put in the grant, because donors are always interested in this also, because they want to check the boxes like how you are going to implement this entire project, and where can they check your progress and status, that what are the areas which need improvement, what are the areas which need to be corrected, which need to be improved. So these are the things like with that, and then we will discuss about project sustainability. In sustainability, you will outline the specific future fundraising plan, also provide the blueprint of how you will be implementing these plans, and make sure your plans are realistic. Give them like whatever resources that you have in that, include the information on hiring additional staff or freelancers or contractors or subcontractors. Like do provide those information if you have regarding, which will justify your project sustainability. And then when you are done with the project sustainability, then you will also discuss about the organizational information. And with that organizational information, uh, write uh, like uh, write it in a way, even like if the donor know you, but write it in a way that funder is going to hear about your organization or about you for the first time. That is very important because sometimes you are expecting that your project will be read by only the person that you know, or sometimes it is not true, because when there are that steering committee or people who are going to evaluate your program or your proposal, maybe that person has never heard about you. Maybe the person that you are in contact with is a different person with the person who is reading it. So always consider this thing, that you have to write about your organization or about yourself in a way that that person is going to hear it for the first time. Give your organization full name, legal name, its legal status, and also your history, mission, people you have served, your track record, list of programs that you have done, and like name of board members, staff, or volunteers wherever it is required. State a location of your, like, if you have organization that has different branches or sub office or sub outlet office, just mention everything and include the financial information, like that will give the donor uh, an idea that they can be, like, you can be trusted with the money, like if you will receive the money, such as annual donations and budgets and everything, like things like that. Anyhow, so when you are done with that, with organizational information, come to the budget now. In budget, like, make sure that all figures are 100% accurate. Sometime when you are working in your Excel sheet or whatever software you are using for doing your financials, do make sure that your figures are 100% accurate. Sometimes you will bring changes, but it is not added in the total, or sometimes few cells are missed out, or things like that. So make sure they are 100% accurate. Specify your direct cost, experience, all the expenses, or also indirect cost, with mentioning all those things. And if you have like indirect cost, like what kind of things you can include. You can include your like personal cost, your French benefits, like your travel cost, your equipment, your cost sharing, like, and overhead expenses, and next year budget and supplies. Do provide all those information. And when you are done with that, like, I am also going to specify a few more things, like specify all sources of income and contributions also. That include your volunteer service. But you have to calculate them with the market value, like how much it is going to cost, like with that. State all indirect cost also, and overhead associated with your administrative expenses, because that indirect cost is also very important to be reflected in the budget. And then in the time frame, or where you can say like work plan or worksheet, or like different people will give different names to it, so you have to provide those information. And additional requirement, if you have like an additional requirement to support document, like for example, uh, sometime they will ask you for additional things, but whatever you are going to do, that they will ask you that what kind of attachments or what kind of things you need to add with that specific program, so do add them. So with these activities, like whenever you are doing that, also like proofread every specific thing, like again and again, and double check everything that things are correct and there is no problem with those. Make a copy of your file, make sure like your um, mail and delivers wills are, like whatever you are doing it, they are going to meet the deadlines and everything, things are perfectly all right. In the end of this slide, or this step number 10 is like that is following up. uh, uh, it is not like today that you will submit your proposal and tomorrow you will start calling them and tell them that, hey, tell me what happened. No, give it a little time, but keep the grantor informed and be patient, and they will take time. And after that, like once they are done, if you will not hear according to the specific timeline that they have given you, if they are not responding according to that, then after that you can talk to them and you can ask them like, what is the progress, what is the status, what happened, uh, are they looking for some extra information or not. Like, it is always good to have that follow up with that. If you're not going to do the follow up, you will always miss a lot of things. Then we will go to step number 11, and in step 11, like, there are a few things like revising your grant proposal. Why this is important? Because if you're not willing to revise it, so it means this thing the donor may ask you to bring some revision to, or even before that, like, there are a few other things also, like, have you first ask your own self that have you presented a perfect case, have you presented a compelling case, or have you presented like a best scenario to the donor. um, does your project seem feasible? Is it overly ambitious, or does it have like other weaknesses, or like, have you stated a mean of that the grantor can use to evaluate the success of your project? And also, like, after you have executed that, so project revision or grant proposal revision, it can happen several times. Sometime you will be doing it on your own, and sometime the donor or the grantor will be asking you to bring some changes. So whosoever is doing it, like, try to follow the steps and procedures so that you will not skip anything. And with that, like, you will move to step number 12 now. There are a few things like you have to avoid, like, in the grant writing, because that is these are the things like which are going to put you in a bad situation. So what are the things that we have to avoid? That is like failing to provide your convincing, like, rationales. You have, if you are unable to provide like a convincing rationales, so it means this thing that your grant is not good. And also, if you are overly ambitious, it is not good for you. uh, Proposing an unrealistic budget, um, it is just going to put you out of the race for winning the grant or whatever that thing that you are applying for. And leaving the idea undefined or like realistic. So try to be like, whatever idea you have put in your grant, explain it. If you are not going to explain it, so it means this thing that just forget about your winning chances then. So explain the thing. And sometime this is also a big problem. Like, sometimes people will provide very little information, and sometimes they will provide too much information. So don't be uh, in any of these categories. Try to do the work as they have asked you. Don't provide very little and don't provide too much information. So just provide those information that the reader can understand that how you are going to implement everything with your activities. And also, like, failing to determine uh, the community support. If you are unable to show the support of your beneficiaries or community or stakeholders, it means this thing that you will have less chances uh, to win that grant. And also, failing to provide enough evidences that the project will become like self-sufficient or sustainable, or it will be completed, things like that. So you have to provide like enough evidences that which will make sure, or which will give kind of hope to the donor that okay, this project is going to work. And also, failing if you are like unable to follow the instructions or guidelines or the requirement which are mentioned in the program, it means this thing that again you have no chances to win anything. So that is interesting in there. And before I will move to step number 13, there is one thing which is very important, like in here. Even when I used to be working as a grant person and check people's proposal, sometimes they just use like a lot of jargons and acronyms and shortcut words or stuff or things like that, or there are some terminologies that they have, like as I mentioned, like mainly like jargons and acronyms. So try to avoid them. Uh, and even if you are using them, so you have to have a section in your proposal uh, which has to mention the length of it, which has to mention the detail of it, so that the reader will not be thinking that what is this acronym for. So there are things like uh, each acronym can be having different length in different countries and different culture and different organizations. So don't expect that PMP is only used in monitoring and evaluation. No, or you cannot say like IP means like implementing partner only. It can be anything. So whatever you are using, try to provide the length. Try not to use a lot of jargons and acronyms. And if you are in case using them, so in your proposal, there should be a specific section which should be explaining that what that thing does mean and how you are going to justify that activity with that. Anyhow, so now we will come here to few of the characteristics of successful grants. Like there are few characteristics like uh, already whatever we have discussed, it must have given you the idea like what things should be included in the research proposal and what things shouldn't be included. Anyhow, so characteristics of successful grant can be like a lot, and whenever you are discussing it, so it should your proposal should cover thoroughly, and it should cover every detail of the project from start to finish, so that the reader should not be lost that how you are going to start it and how you are going to end it. So everything should be very well maintained. And also whenever the applicant has researched and explained or did overall, like they've asked people about the funder and funds of organizations like that you are interested in. So you have to have a thorough research uh, that who is the donor, who is the grantor. You should do as much detailed research as you can to um, identify about the donor and see the purpose of that grant, that why they are doing it. And the like whatever proposal, this is also one of the characteristic that your proposal, whatever you are writing, is totally tailored with to the each funding organization. Before you will submit that, don't do like that you will write one proposal and submit it in 10 different organization or 10 different donors. All 10 different donors have different requirement. As I mentioned, that they should be having relevancy and all those connections. It happens most of the time, like people will write one thing and they will submit it in 100 and they think that somebody will reply. Nobody will reply till the time your proposal is being tailored to all different organizations. Then you can hear back from them, otherwise not. So always tailor your own project, your funding request, whatever you're doing, do it, and that can be uh, a successful characteristics for the grant. And also one more thing, whatever you are doing, always remember this thing: if you are not going to ask, you are not going to receive anything. So always ask for the grant, ask for the thing. If you're not going to ask, you are not going to receive anything. So you have to be very specific about things. And also there are few more characteristics, there are many more, like I'm not saying few more, there are many more, but there are only few we will discuss again, that if you are an applicant or whosoever is your writer of the you have to follow the entire guidelines of the agency, and also create the entire package and submit it before the time and clearly explain the entire project. Every section should be detailed, like explained in detail, and also explain all resources, your goals, and your budget section. Don't miss anything vague, don't miss anything like unclear, which will put you in trouble, or they will simply just throw away your proposal. So uh, if you want them to consider your things, so just be little bit serious with whatever you are doing. Although you are all are serious, but unfortunately, like when it comes to putting things together, so if somebody is going to give money or some organization is going to give money, so they have to make sure that 100% everything is perfect. Otherwise, they will just ignore it. And also the successful grant also have one more characteristics like which I will explain. uh, Sometime like you will just put in bullets, and sometime you will just put things in paragraphs. Now, like you have to have like a narrative section of your proposal, answering every possible question about the project, like even think as a donor also, that what donor would ask you. So try to answer all those questions and put that one in the narrative section. When you will put that one in the narrative section, then things can be clear, and things can be easy for the reader also to understand that what is going on. And last but not the least, that is your step number 14, that is grant general tips for success. And there are, as I mentioned, that whatever we discussed, the all were general tips, but some of them were like, some of them are like just pay attention to agency skills, interest, and organize your ideas through numbered list, and write carefully uh, whatever you are writing, and customize your proposal uh, with each donor, and go after the grant of all size. And don't think like, oh, you cannot apply for this big grant or small grant or medium grant or things like that. Just go ahead and do everything. Like if there is a bigger grant, if you need to create consortiums with other organizations or individuals, just go ahead and do it. And if they are just small grants, just even if you think that you are very big organization, you don't need the small grant, just don't think like that. Just remain in the loop. If you are in the loop, it means this thing that you are interested to be the part of different activities. So in your organization, there will be definitely people who can handle like that small grants also, or small projects also. Go with every all sort of grant sizes, and don't give up. Keep on writing, keep on exploring, keep on doing research, and also like research every detail of your project to make sure that it is feasible before you apply for the grant. And even if you have ideas, you think that the grant is not being announced by anybody, uh, just go and explore the foundations. There are a lot of foundations, there are a lot of organizations, there are government setups, there are public partnership setups present everywhere. Like they need people everywhere. So consider yourself that you can do anything, like, but you have to go with the proper approach, and do all those things. And also look for the funding sources uh, from whatever region, whatever organizations, foundations, or any country. Just go ahead with everything. And also, one thing important, like in here, I would like to mention that whenever you are discussing about the tips and stuff like that, never ignore your local grants, because those local grants, local individuals, and all those things, local, like it is kind of because they have uh, these people know you for a longer time. They have more trust on you than anyone else. And they have like kind of community loyalty component and business community loyalty, or whatever name you will give it to them. So that is like it is going to increase your chances of success a lot. So do consider your local activities, and state the grant writing application as soon as you will come to know that the grant is open. Just do it. Like don't wait for the last date, uh, because grant writing needs a lot of information. And once you will start it, so slowly and gradually, uh, before the deadline, you can submit something very good in a best shape. Otherwise you will have problems with them. So these were all like some basic tools and techniques like what we were discussing up till now. So based on all this, in here I would like to say this thing, that whatever you heard, I hope you got little bit idea that what grant writing is. And for the next session, like we will be having like a question and answer session. And please do come up with your questions. We will discuss it, and then I will also try to answer as many questions of yours as you can. And you can also like shoot me an email through uh, my LinkedIn. or you can send me message through LinkedIn. I would love to answer any question regarding the grant writing, like whatever your question and will be, I would love to answer. But we will also have a like live session where we will answer all your questions. So once again, thank you very much and looking forward to see you guys. Thank you.